Hello and welcome back to Marcelian Online. You need to play healer. I mean, maybe if you decided to, but you don't know which one because you're kind of looking at maybe one of the easier healers, or maybe you like some of the harder healers. I will be ranking all of the healers, starting from the most chaotic, hardest healers to the chill, cool, breezy healers that will give you a smooth run through your Mythic Plus journey. We're gonna start it right off with Resto Shaman, a pretty good one to go for, and we're gonna rank it in the chill category. Super easy, not that hard. It of course has some interactions, some passives, and it might be my own personal bias ranking this so low because it's a healer that I'm very comfortable with, but I do feel like when shit starts to happen, you kind of have ways to respond to it, and I think that goes a long way in helping people, of course, get accustomed to the healing role and feeling that they have tools to respond with, and by that definition makes it a reactive healer, being really good. Spirit Link is the best button to save a bunch of people, man. Like, I don't think any other healer has any better button to save a bunch of people, and by that alone gives you a lot of mental relaxation and freedom to actually approach healing possible. Not to mention that its general rotation is very simplistic, very easy. Once you learn how to, juggle the tidal waves and the cast reductions and the mana cost and all of that, which is, I guess, true for pretty much every other healer, then you're gonna be just fine with Resto Shaman. This and so much more is made available in no small contribution by our patrons, which we are super grateful for. Patrons also get access to some exclusive stuff like custom-made wallpapers, podcasts, bloopers, and direct support of our player profile that will make healing for you in the next season way easier. That Marcelian actually does a lot of job updating almost daily at this point, so that everything you do in dungeons and raids is a lot smoother, whether it's healing or otherwise. So if you want to be a part of the team and help us make even cooler stuff in the future, consider checking our patreon.com/Marcelian_online page, and you might have access to some cooler things you didn't know existed. Let's talk about Discipline Priest, which on the other hand is not as easy as Resto Shaman. Now, I don't know exactly where to put Discipline Priest because there is some discussion. I think I'm gonna put it a little bit into hard. So Discipline Priest has been made easier to play in the latest couple of years, depending on when the last time it was that you played Discipline Priest. But in relation to all the other healers, it's not that easy. But I'm actually gonna move it down to the okay tier. It has a nice balance of difficulty and reliability when it comes to your healing. Of course, its rotation and how you heal people is a little bit niche and very specific with the way that Atonement works. However, if you have been a DPS player at any point in time, you'll probably feel more at home with Discipline Priest than any other healer on this tree, and pretty much all of its interactions when it comes to Schism or Shadow Covenant and the Void Weaver and Tropic Rift is pretty much baked or are baked into your basic rotation that just kind of happen. Of course, they are important, and whenever you want to engage with any one of these DPS boosting windows, you want to make sure that everybody has Atonements out, and you kind of have to prep that before you go into pressing your Mind Blasts or Mind Bend or anything like that, which obviously makes a little bit of sense, but that's not very difficult to do since you're gonna have Atonements up on everybody anyway. And one of the cooler things that happened to Discipline Priest that made it easier to play, more accessible, is Ultimate Penance being a little bit more accessible in the talent tree so that you can actually play without having to sacrifice an arm and a leg for it. And it also gives you a big shield that absorbs 100% of your HP bar in damage if you have to take damage while you're channeling the Ultimate Penance. And you can also move during it, albeit a little bit slow, but it does make it more accessible as opposed to a lot of other channeled abilities in the World of Warcraft game that keep you locked in your own position. And we know a couple of those that have killed people in the past. That is not Ultimate Penance. So pretty much every main change that Discipline has had, even in the Evangelism cooldown rework, has made it easier to approach, less ramp required, or more efficient and more, let's say, rewarding ramps that can take away some of the complexity and the 4-5 head 500 IQ gameplay where you have to know every second of every mechanic that's coming down the line, so you have tools prepared for every situation. So that's good, and that's why I think Discipline is a little bit easier than it was in the past. Definitely something that you should try out now. That is not the case with Holy Paladin. Damn! Alright, I kind of fell in love with Paladin in the War Within, and Holy Paladin has been a healer that I wanted to play a lot in Season 1 because it was very funky and fun in beta. It was very chaotic, hence why it's in the Chaos tree, and it's not fun chaotic. No, it's painful chaotic. You're going to cry tears of like, why is everybody dying? Okay, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but Holy Paladin is a bit chaotic in its design and it's not very intuitive for the new player. If you're a new player and maybe this is your first time playing WoW and you're like, oh my god, I like a Paladin that can heal people, you go into it and you'll have no idea what to do and how to do the what to do the thing that you need to do. Since there are so many underlying layers of scaling your heals, and this is true for a lot of healers, by the way, not just Holy Paladin, but you look at your Holy Light and you're like, dude, this heals for like 100 to 200,000 damage and my party members have about 8 million health? How in the world? Well, you will heal for a lot more than that, but you will have to like stack procs upon procs and generate procs with other procs and then just kind of make it work while also being in melee, hitting things with your sword and hammer to generate the holy power that then is being used to actually heal with stuff. So it's just a little bit all over the place in its design. Clearly the devs have an issue with defining its identity of whether or not it's a melee crusader that's just keeping people alive or the quintessential Holy Paladin that a lot of people have been accustomed with by just casting Holy Lights and being a caster healer, which was, you know, the OG version of Holy Paladin. Nobody really knows what Holy Paladin is about today, and that doesn't necessarily make it harder on its own, but on top of the rotation being pretty difficult to pull off and most of your healing coming down in cooldown, so if you're cut with your pants down, you're not gonna save too many people, unfortunately. Although it does have a very vast utility kit that is very useful, and if you don't have any other Paladin in your group, being able to provide Blessing of Protection, Lay on Hands, having Divine Shield on your own will give you some very abstract but very powerful layers of defensives in making sure that everybody essentially survives. But juggling this is not very intuitive, and although it's a fun healer to play, it's gonna take a while to get used to. I'm just saying that much. Holy Priest over the years has been the quintessential meme easy healer, and although I do believe it is easy, and I will put it in the easy tree, I'm not sure if it's the easiest healer to play nowadays, and that's not necessarily because its complexity when it comes to its rotation and its design. It's actually one of the more straightforward healers in terms of like how it works. Oh, HP bar is missing, I will fill it up with a heal, which is named heal, since nothing is more intuitive than that. But there are also holy words, which are not complicated to understand. However, they are conditional, and you have to like constantly spam a bunch of heals to get the holy words out. Now, there are builds in Holy Priest that I have also played that make it incredibly easy to play, maybe even easier than Resto Shaman, but that's not obvious that that would be the best way to play Holy Priest. And Holy Priest lacks a lot of the tools that other healers have in making sure that, oh my god, people are dying, I need to save them right now. Of course, it has its own healing cooldowns, and it's a very good healer. People are using it right now in the race world first to keep the raids alive, but you will feel the lack of cooldowns such as Spirit Link, where even though Resto Shaman and Holy Priest have a similarly very easy rotation to juggle, the lack of powerful defensive cooldowns that can save you in like, oh shit moments is gonna be felt, and those moments are definitely going to happen, especially if you're a new healer and you're looking at something a little bit easier to pull off. Other than that, it's probably your best bet if Resto Shaman is in your jam and you want an easy journey going into healing in Season 2. Mistweaver is similar to Discipline Priest and kind of Holy Paladin. It's a healer that kind of needs to do DPS to get its healing up, but your DPS doesn't directly contribute to your HPS. You're just pressing your DPS abilities extends your healing abilities in a way, so it doesn't matter how much damage you do, it just matters that you kind of do it. And it's still a little bit unintuitive, and there are some really niche interactions there, and similar to Holy Paladin, you're looking at your base heals and you're like, how am I keeping people alive with these low numbers? But it definitely has a lot of scaling behind the scenes and a lot of procs that increase your overall healing that are not super intuitive, but at least it makes more sense than Holy Paladin, which is why it's not really that chaotic. And it's one of the easier healers in the sense that a lot of your important heals are smart heals. Stuff like Renewing Mists that has a chance to jump and duplicate and stuff like that. It usually prioritizes people that are low on HP, and when you heal people, it usually goes normally on the lower HP target, so you don't have to focus too much on stress testing all the HP bars in your group, whether it's a dungeon or a raid. And it is a little bit fun, I'm not gonna lie. Mistweaver is fun, as opposed to the chaos that Holy Paladin has. At least with Mistweaver, it's like, cool, you're kicking and punching and stomping the ground to heal people up. That's kind of fun, and it goes a long way into making sure that you have a decent experience when going into M+. Not to mention the fact that you have a lot of mobility goes a long way for a melee healer that can find themselves in some sticky situations being in melee and all. Preservation has retained its kind of difficulty. It's not too hard of a hero, but I think I will rank it above Discipline and Mistweaver, since it does have very conditional healing most of the time, and you do have to kind of read a little bit between the lines of your tooltips to understand, okay, how can I do this one cool combo? I don't think it's as hard as it was when it was released, but it does have some deep level of complexity that you might need to understand, and the fact that your healing range is fairly small, and some of the better heals that you have kind of happen in either like a breath in front of you, or you have to like fly through people, and that can be quite dangerous if you don't know where you're flying to. Are you flying into a frontal, into a circle, into a soak, into something else? Are you going to be in a good position after you end up your dream flight? I think it's called, yes, dream flight. So those are levels of awareness that you have to have that you don't have to have with any other healers, and that comes along with some knowledge of the encounters and combat situations so that you can do this safely while also making sure people don't die. Hence why it is in the hard tree. It can be really fun though, so don't knock it till you try it. Now, Resto Druid was a debate on whether or not to put it in the Chaos section, and although Resto Druid could be one of the hardest healers in the game period, I think it still has a little bit of ways into getting all the way to Holy Paladin's level, because it's not in design hell, what I would like to call Holy Paladin in. It's been getting some major quality of life changes in the class tree talents and some of them in the spec tree as well. It is a difficult healer by the sheer fact of its design and how the HOTS or heal over time effect works. Its mastery has kind of been borked again, since it used to be particularly strong, but also was making the spec a little bit harder to play, which is why I kind of knocked it down a little bit. You'll still have to get your heals up in very specific ways, like you have to have a couple of HOTS up on the target to do a Soul of the Forest empowered regrowth to make sure that that's where your big healers come in. Of course, it depends on your gameplay. You can have more consistent healing overall if you play rejuvenation style builds, and you can also cat weave, I guess. Cat weave is the best way, by the way, but you can also probably owl weave if you play Keeper of the Grove, essentially swapping into a DPS form to deal some damage while your heals tick away, since some of the time you might not have much to do. Now, that's not necessarily a mandatory way to play Resto Druid, but it is an efficient way to do it, and if you go into decently high level groups, they might even expect you to do that at the very least. But this is how it all looks like at the moment. It's a little bit all over the place, but maybe this is a nice spread of difficulty when it comes to healers, because you don't want every healer to be easy or every healer to be hard, but you will have an easier time going into Season 2. And if you haven't checked our new Marcelian Online player profile that is so good to tackle endgame content, whatever role you pick, you should watch this video where Marcelian actually goes into all of the details explaining how to set it up, how easy it is to actually engage with it, and what all the colors means, what casts you need to interrupt, and essentially making your gameplay way smoother. Check it out.